Illuminated Bible Story Book for Young People by Elizabeth Morton. Printed in the U.S.A., copyright 1927, published by the John C. Winston Company, Chicago, Philadelphia, Toronto. Includes 20 colored illustrations. Today's reading is Samson the Strong Man. For over 30 years, the Israelites were faithful to God and continued to worship Him and serve Him. But when they again turned to idol worship and forsook God, He allowed an enemy to oppress them. This time it was the Philistines, a warlike nation who lived near the seacoast. It was during this time that Samson was born. Even before his birth, Samson's parents knew that he was to be a great man, for an angel had appeared to his mother and had told her that their son would deliver their land from the Philistines. But they must obey the words of the angel. They must never allow their son to drink wine or any strong drink, neither should they ever cut his hair. And so Samson grew up to be the strongest man of whom the Bible tells. He was so strong that one day he seized a lion by the jaw and tore it to pieces, just as if it had been a young lamb or a kid. But Samson was hated by the Philistines, for at one time he went down into one of their cities and killed 30 of their people. And again he caught all the wild foxes that he could find and tied them together in pairs by their tails. And between the tails of each pair he placed a piece of dry wood. Then he set the wood on fire and turned the foxes loose in the cornfields of the Philistines. Of course, the foxes set the grain on fire and burned it. When the Philistines saw their harvests destroyed, they marched into the Israelites' land and demanded that Samson be given up to them. Samson then let the Israelites bind him with 2 new cords, and he even allowed himself to be taken right into the Philistine camp. Perhaps he smiled to himself as he heard the Philistines shouting for joy at his helplessness. But just as the Philistines were rejoicing, Samson broke the cords as if they had been light strings, and picked up from the ground a dry bone and began to strike right and left with it, as if it were a sword. With this strange weapon he killed almost 1,000 men. Now Samson loved a Philistine woman whose name was Delilah. And when the Philistine rulers heard that Samson was coming often to visit Delilah, they went to her secretly and said to her, "Find out if you can what it is that makes Samson so strong. If you help us capture him and put him in prison, then we shall give you a large sum of money." So when Samson came again to visit Delilah, she asked him to tell her what it was that made him so strong, and how he might be bound so as to make him weak. No doubt Samson had been flattered with Delilah's remarks, and he answered gladly enough, "If they bind me securely with 7 green twigs, then I shall be weak." So Delilah quickly told the rulers of the Philistines, and they brought the green twigs and bound Samson with them securely while he slept. Then she cried out, "The Philistines be upon thee!" Samson sprang up and broke the twigs as easily as if they had been burned with fire, so his strength was still a secret. Delilah then knew that Samson was only making fun of her, so she tried again to find his secret. And Samson said, "If they bind me with new ropes that have never been used before, then I shall be weak." While Samson slept, Delilah bound him with the ropes, and she again called to him. But Samson, when he awakened, broke the new ropes off his arms like a thread. And again Delilah begged him to tell her the truth. And finally, after she had pressed him and pleaded with him, day after day, he at last forgot God's great plan for him and told her his great secret. "If my hair is cut off," he said, "then the Lord will forsake me, and I shall become weak and helpless." Delilah was now sure that she had found the truth, so she waited until Samson was asleep, and then she cut off all his hair. Then she cried again, "The Philistines are upon thee, O Samson!" And Samson arose, expecting to be as strong as before, but he found himself weak and helpless. It was now easy for the Philistines to bind him. And so that he might never do any more harm, they put out his eyes and made him grind corn, just as if he were a beast of burden. Poor Samson! As he slaved in prison, he realized how foolish he had been. He prayed to God, and God heard his prayer, and caused his hair to grow again. With his hair, his strength came back again. One day, when the Philistines were having a great feast, they sent for Samson to amuse them. And as Samson was being led into the temple court, he said to the lad, "Take me to the pillars on which the house stands, so that I may lean against one of them." As Samson stood there, he prayed to God to give him back his strength once more, that he might obtain vengeance against the Philistines. Then he said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Bowing forward with all his might, he pulled the pillars over him, and the house fell on Samson and all the people. God had used Samson to free his people, and for many, many years after that, the Philistines did not attempt to oppress the Israelites.